I've been getting quite a few questions about resource management in Smartsheet, and they're coming both from a capacity planning side of things as well as from a forecasting, right? Definitely as the end of the year, people are starting to think about budgeting for next year and they're looking at resourcing. So I wanted to talk through, it's a little bit confusing because Smartsheet recently rebranded their 10,000 feet um, basically resource management acquisition into resource management. But then there's also kind of the legacy resource management. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through what's available today, what I call out of the box, so no additional pricing. And hopefully that can help you along the way. So what I have here is just like a really basic PMO implementation project plan template for one of our discovery sessions. And you'll see that I have the task name, start, finish, date, it's got some duration and things like that. And it's got this assigned to column, right? So my name is assigned to, you can kind of see what my tasks are. All right. So if I wanted to be able to see a resource management view, the first thing I need to do is I need to be able to look at the I need to enable resource management. Okay. So the only way it's a little bit strange. So if I'm in a grid view, notice how I don't have any of these options up here. You only get those options if you're in Gantt view. So the first thing that people get confused about is like, wait a second, how do I enable resource management on a specific project plan? So I'm in a sheet in Smartsheet right now. I'm in a project plan. I want to enable resource management views. Okay. So I have to be in Gantt view in order to do that. When I do that, I then go up to this little gear, and in the gear, you'll see that you have dependency settings, timeline display, and resource management. So today I'm going to do resource management. You'll see that it's disabled right now. Then you can see here that there's this resource management by Smartsheet. Okay. This is their add-on resource management. Again, it's rebranded from their 10,000 feet platform. So when I was many years ago in consulting firm, I used 10,000 feet for our time tracking module and forecasting and things like that. Smartsheet acquired them. They're integrating it more and more closely. It's a really cool platform. We can talk about that in a different session. Today, we're going to talk about kind of what's out of the box in Smartsheet for resourcing views. So they've renamed this to be Legacy RM, Legacy Resource Management. So I'm going to enable that here. And in order for this to work, I need the assign to resource column. It has to be a contact column, which makes sense because we're, assigning to specific contacts. So you'll see that I only have the options of my contact columns assigned to, and then you have to have an allocation percent column. So if you think about it, the system is automatically going to assume it's 100% of the time for the duration of the task. And we'll talk a little bit more about this, unless you can actually say, okay, actually, I only need 25% of my time for this week, for example. So I already have a percentage allocation column set up. So I'm going to click this here and I'm going to click OK. Okay. When that happened, notice that I got another icon up here that is a project resource view. And I just want to be clear, if I'm in the grid view, I don't see it, right? I have to be in the Gantt view in order to see this. All right, so I've got my name next to things and then I've done this percent allocation. So if you think about it, right, and let me just show you really quick because you might not have a percent allocation column already set up. So let me just show you, it's pretty easy. And you don't have to call it percent allocation. That's just like the way I do it. So percent of time, for example, right? It's just a text number column. And then you have the ability to go ahead and format this column, right? So I like to format this column as a percentage column so that it makes sense, okay? All right, so I'm going to delete that. I don't need that. I already have a percentage allocation. So, okay, this is a one-day task, contract signed. I don't need my whole day to get a contract signed, so I'm saying 10%, right? For project setup and configuration, I put 25%. So if I think about this, this is assuming an 8-hour day. It's going to take a couple hours for me to get the project set up, maybe, right? So I'm doing pretty quick percentage allocation. Now, if you want to talk about it, you could potentially like consider putting percentage allocation based on hours. There's a couple different ways you can do that. You can't have a formula in here, but some of the new automation that they gave us that allows you to update a cell value. So you could say like if it's 2 hours, or something like that, then you could, anyways, we don't have to get too deep in that, but there are some options to update the percentage allocation if you don't want people to do it in percent allocation. But out of the box, the easiest thing is a percent allocation. Okay. So now I've got my data, right? And you'll see that I'm starting to see these little orange people. So this is an alert that's saying, okay, I'm over allocated. So I can go ahead and open the resource view right from here. Now, in this project resource view, I want to be very clear. Only the resources that are allocated to this project are showing up. But Molly is on this project. I'm Molly, by the way. And you can see both this project, which is called PMO implementation, as well as some of these other projects, right? So what I'm seeing is each sheet that has Molly assigned to a task of some sort, I can see each of those different sheets and I can see what percentage. And you'll see that this is by week here, and I can kind of scroll left to right, like some basic components here. If I wanted to, I could click into the other project plan, and it's going to bring up the other project plan. So a couple different things I might want to do, like if I wanted to, for example, filter down assigned to Molly, I could do that. So now I'm only looking at Molly's tasks to see if I needed to adjust something or along those lines. Okay. So for right now, I'll go back to my other view. No, I don't want to save. Um, so one thing to do is here, right? The other place is I can click up here, and again, I can drop down and see, okay, Melissa and Molly are both assigned on this project, and here's where it is, and I can see where the component. Now, this is not as robust if you're used to coming from like project or something like that, but it is a step above Excel, which is typically where I see most clients coming in and saying like, hey, here's our resourcing plan, like how to put it. So it kind of like is that nice middle step. Um, so let's go a little bit deeper here. So we've enabled the resourcing at this project, but I don't only want to see Molly and Melissa. I want to see all of my resources, right? Because I might want to make other decisions. So how would I go about doing that? So what I would do is I would click on the folder, and you'll notice that you have this resourcing view capability down here, and you can create a new view. Okay. So here, if I click on resourcing views, I've already created a view, but I can create new up here. So actually, it's going to be easiest to just go from like all or something like that. So I'm going to click on Echo Project Management. So I don't have a ton of stuff here, but I've clicked on a view. So now I can see Kelly, Molly, Melissa. This is all the resourcing that's in my environment. Okay. So you'll see that I've got Kelly, Melissa, Molly, Molly test. Here we go. I can create a new view. The capabilities that you have when you create a new view, you have to name it. You can do it by user, by project, or by group. Okay, so let's do an example of by project. These are the different project plans that have resourcing enabled. So you're not going to be able to see a project plan that doesn't have resourcing enabled. Definitely reach out if you need like admin center training components of how you would set this up. But right now I'm only seeing the projects that have resourcing enabled on them and potentially have a person that is assigned to a task, etc. Right. So I'll just do, we've got some basic data here. I'll do my PMO one since I just did this one. So there we go. And we'll name this by project. Okay. And you can filter here if you wanted to, but I just usually just use this drop down. If you have like 600 project plans, which one of my clients does, obviously typing versus just selecting makes more sense there. So I'm going to click OK. And what happens there is I'm going to look at the new view. So my by project. Oh, did I not? What did I do here? Edit. Oh, okay. Sorry. So you're still seeing the, I'm so sorry. So you're still seeing the resourcing by the resource, but you're narrowing it down by the individual projects. So you're not seeing all projects. Okay. So the other one is if you created a new view and you're filtering things down, you're filtering it by user. So these are the filters. So I'm saying, okay, I only want to see Kelly, Melissa, and Molly. Whereas here, I'm filtering by project. So I'm filtering by the projects. So it's going to show all users that are on these projects, okay? The other option is if you use groups. So this is groups of resources. This is again another admin center piece. So you can go ahead and like group 5 resources into an engineering team or a dev team or a marketing team. So you can say, okay, I only want to see the Echo leadership team, for example, or I only want to see operations. So these are different filters that you can do. In terms of the views that you're looking for, right? You're still going to see them by the individual resource. And see here, when I went to click OK, this field is required. You have to name it. That makes sense, right? So now I've only limited it down to these projects, and you can only see the resources that are on these projects. Okay, couple of different things you can do. You can choose the dates, but the way it's going to do is roll it up. It's always by week, just as a heads up. It's just one of the limitations right now. If you do the add-on, you can get better views like monthly, quarterly, etc. And then here, you've got a couple of different options. You can go ahead and export to Microsoft Excel. I'll show you what that looks like. If you email it to someone, it's literally just attaching that Excel document to the email. So it's going to be the same thing. All right, so let me just open up the Excel document so you can see what it looks like. Here's what it looks like in their view. This is what the export to Excel looks like. So you can see the main person, you can see the day of the week, and you can kind of see the breakdown here. Okay, so nothing too crazy, but you can get it exported to Excel. All right, so this is like just a basic overview. So if we think about this, this is a named resource. So this is Kelly, Melissa, or Molly, and they've been assigned to these different projects, right? But what if you have a new project coming on and you don't know what resource it's assigned to yet? So again, this is just my own demo environment, but like I have clients that have 500 resources, right? They might have 100 resources just in the software development team or something like that, right? So this can be much more intense. So what we want to do is say, how would we use this functionality so you could have both the named resources, like this specific person on this specific project, with what I call unnamed resources? And what I like to do is I like to set up free users in Smartsheet so that we can assign something to a role or an unnamed resource. So let me go back to let's go to a project plan and I'll show you what this looks like in practice, and then I'll show you how to set it up. So right now this is assigned to Molly, everything's assigned to me, right? But let's say that I'm not available or I don't know what I like. This is a new project and I don't actually know what I would want to do. So what I can do instead is I can assign it to project manager, right? So instead now Molly is, instead of Molly, it's going to be project manager, and I'm going to save that. So now when I go to my resourcing view up here, I can see Melissa, Molly, and then this resource that is project manager, and project manager has been assigned to these tasks. Okay. Um, so let me just show you really quick how that that can be helpful. Again, if you have a new resource, you have potential projects that are forecasted that you aren't using yet. If you don't know what the resource is, especially if you're hiring or you're growing or it's a contract or things like that. So this can be really helpful if you're doing forecasting. So to do that, you do have to set up the users. So again, I'll just dip into Admin Center really quick. Not everyone's going to have access to Admin Center. If you're the admin for your account, you will. But what I do is I set up unlicensed users. And so you can see that I have an implementation consultant and a project manager as an unlicensed user. So let's just add a new one, for example, and let's call this, let's call them a developer, right? And then for the email address, you do have to have an email address, but it doesn't have to be a legit email address, right? So I just do developer at echoconsultingpm.com. I'm not going to waste a license on them because it's not a real person, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and click invite. Okay, and that's it. So now that is a resource that I can go ahead and assign on my project if I wanted to. All right, so one of the things here is that, so I'm in this project plan. So one of the things that Smartsheet sometimes can get a little confusing is I updated this in user management. Usually I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm going to refresh so the developer shows up in my resource options, okay? So, and all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start typing and see developer shows up. I'm gonna assign this to developer, there we go. I can go ahead and click save. Now when I go ahead and look in the resourcing view, I now have a new resource type that's called developer, and I can go here. Does that make sense? Okay. So yeah, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview of some basic resourcing things, a couple of troubleshooting pieces. Not everyone has resourcing views out of the box. It is so if we go back to Admin Center again, this isn't an Admin Center training, but just as a heads up. So if you go into your licensed users, for example, and I were to, let's click on Melissa, for example, um, under licensed user, you can decide whether someone's a group admin and whether someone's a resource viewer. If they're not a resource viewer, they're not going to have access to set up resource views or to look at resourcing, okay? Most people might not need to see that. Mostly it's going to be a resource manager or a project manager or something like that. So you can, if you aren't seeing that resourcing view, there's a couple troubleshooting steps. The first thing is you want to make sure that your project plan is set up with resource management. So you need to go to the Gantt view. Then you go here, you click on the resource management. You want to make sure that it's not in disabled, it's in legacy. You need to make sure you have an allocation column, right? Like what percentage of the time for the duration is it going to be? One other thing, just because I'm in here and I'm thinking of it. So even though really the best way out of the box is to use this percentage allocation, sometimes people need to think about the hours aspect of that. So let me just show you a really quick formula here. Okay, so I'm just going to do hours calced, right? Calculation. And I'm going to leave it as a text number field, okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a basic formula, and I'm going to multiply this, the allocation, times the duration, right? And then I'm going to multiply that times 8, because there's 8 hours in a day, 8 hours in a work day. Make sense? So if I do 10%, right, then that's going to be zero point 0.8 hours is what I'm looking at. Okay. And then one of the things you can just drag and drop this down, as you guys know, but one of the new pieces of functionality that they added in, which I'm really liking, is you can go ahead and convert this to a column formula. So now you can see all of the different components here. So you can see how many hours it is. This is actually kind of helpful. Like if someone's putting in a percent allocation, maybe they're not like really familiar with it. And so they're saying like, oh, I'm 50%. Do you need 4 hours to get a contract signed? Maybe you do. I don't know. But it can be helpful if people aren't used to thinking about it in terms of percentage allocation. Make sense? All right, so that was a really quick overview of resource management, or legacy resource management, as Smartsheet's talking about it right now. Feel free to reach out. So my name is Molly Yanis. I'm the founder of Echo Consulting. We offer project management. We do Smartsheet implementations. We're a partner with Smartsheet, and we have a lot of Smartsheet solution architects on our team. So please feel free to reach out if we can support you in extending your Smartsheet solution and environment. Be aware that Smartsheet also has an add-on component. It's called Resource Management. They just rebranded in the last few months. And that has a more robust time tracking system and a lot more robust forecasting, approvals component to it. But our philosophy here at Echo is very much crawl, walk, run. So if you're not even a situation where you have like resources assigned to specific tasks with durations, let alone percentage allocation, if you're not in a situation where you have like each person associated with the project that they're working on for like what duration of time, like a bigger, better, more extensive tool is not what you need to start with. You need to start with something simple, making sure that there's people and that they're assigned to projects and that you have an idea of what percent allocation they are. Start getting some visibility there. Smartsheet out of the box is great for that. And then as you get more mature in your resource management and your forecasting and this concept of unnamed resources, like looking out further, then you can look at a great solution like resource management, again, that add-on to Smartsheet, that can really take it up a notch and provide you better data to really make more strategic decisions moving forward. So, thank you for your time today. I hope this was helpful. Bye.